Okay, hi. It's been a long time since I've put anything on this channel, but right now, I'm going through a period where I'm wanting to do some massive changes to how things are run, in my business in general. Hang on, I'm not liking this lighting. Well, anyway, yeah, if as you can see behind me, things are kind of in a state of flux. I'm literally working on an order as I do this. I'm just ironing away. And one of the things I've thought about is the possibility of doing like live streams of me actually working on people's orders so that people can actually see where I'm up to, what's going on, why things might be taking longer than they expected. Um, yeah, this is something that I want to experiment with. And I don't know, what to expect of that because currently I because I haven't done anything in such a long time, it's like all of the public image that I had built up for my channel has gone away pretty much. And well, not all of it, but a lot of the customers and regulars I have moved away or disappeared, and a lot of things have changed. But basically I want to just build things up again, and this time around I want to do it better than I did it before. So I mean, I'm going to look for ways that I can improve the quality of my listings on Etsy. I'm going to look for ways that I can maybe sell on other platforms as well. I mean, like if you look at the description, I do have a Depop, but I hardly ever use it, basically because in the times that I have tried to sell there, not much has happened. Admittedly, that's possibly because I've paid so little attention to it, and I've had a tendency to just lavish what attention I do pay to my online presence, mostly on Etsy, because Etsy is where I mostly make mint. But realistically, and people keep telling me you can't just have an Etsy, you can't just have that, and they're not wrong. I mean, if you're not careful with Etsy, you can get chomped by all those fees. And, but one of the big no nos is you're not meant to complain about Etsy, so I'm not going to complain about Etsy. I mean, look, the reality is that Etsy did a lot to take my ideas about my business from just being ideas to being practicalities. Like, literally, this order I'm working on right now, I probably never would have had if it was not for Etsy. I remember a long time ago, I had one order that came in through a resource called eCreator, and that was like one order in the 10 years that I had that store open. Whereas with Etsy, like so far in the 2 weeks that I've had it reopened, I've gotten, oh, has it been 2 weeks? It's been more like a week that I've had it reopened, and I've gotten 3 orders. So that's pretty good. Um, it's not it's not enough to live on for the time being, obviously, but it's a start. And you know, one of the things I've been doing is I've been looking into, well, how can I add value to what's happening for my customers? How can I better learn to be what they want me or need me to be? How can I better provide quality service? And yeah, so I think this concept of showing people how I actually do my work is probably a good idea. Like right now you can't really see what I'm doing very well because like the way things are laid out here, I can't show my face and what I'm doing at the same time. Like you can see there's an iron in my hand. But anyway, there's big changes ahead. And yeah, so right now I've got a lot of my old listings back up on my Etsy, and I've got them at 50% off, basically because I want to try to clear all of the old stuff out and start working on new things. Um, Rather awkwardly, I discovered that I may have been violating my local council by how I was doing things. And in that, I never actually consulted with them about how my business is meant to go. So um, basically, I was running things in a way that may not have been quite right for them. But oh yeah, you can see what I'm folding up here. It's a men's sort of obi that I sell in my store, and it it's sort of like a kaku obi, but I tried to do like a softer or lighter version of it because what can happen when you're first learning how to wear kimono for like 15 years, and still I find kaku obi, like in terms of stiffness, tricky to figure out. And so this has the shape of a regular kaku obi, but it has a softer texture. It's not quite so soft and pliant as a heko obi, but it's softer. It's softer. And that means that if you want to just wrap it around yourself twice and then tie it in like a knot or a bow, you totally can do that. I mean, back in the Edo period, people probably actually legitimately did that as a way of getting dressed. And it's just the rules on how kimono are meant to be worn have gotten more strict over time. Look, I'm gonna be honest and say that I don't really like how this particular obi has ironed. So I'm going to see if I can grab something from over here and just improve that. Basically, what's gone wrong here is that the texture of the thing that I'm ironing on is really, really bad. Like um, it's got a lot of wrinkles, and the wrinkles have ironically gotten ironed into the surface of the fabric. Um, it occurs to me that I don't know how good the microphone even is on my computer. Looking at the number getting, oh, I just accidentally hit the mute button. But yeah, looking at the number of dots I'm getting in terms of volume, seems like my microphone is not very sensitive, which may be for the better or the worse, I don't know. Um, but yeah, one thing I've thought about is maybe having the live streams just be, the camera pointed at what I'm working on so that people can just see the process. And I mean, there are people who would look at that and be like, Shona, why would you do that? Aren't you just giving away all of your secrets then? But then I think, well, what I'm doing isn't all that impressive or clever. I think, you know, I wouldn't quite say a monkey could do it because it does take some knowledge and understanding of what goes on with kimono dressing. And I like maybe you could train a monkey to do kitsuge, but I don't know. I don't really know that you could. Uh, oh yes, now that I'm ironing it on this different surface, because what I've done is I've put a towel down, and yeah, that's looking much better now. I'm going to be much happier to hand this over to the customer. Because yeah, I don't want to send my customers things that look like poop. I want it to look nice, and I mean I have wanted to help kimono culture more broadly to become a little more casual and a little more approachable, because I feel like a massive factor in the extinction of the culture is the way that people feel. And the rules really can cripple a person's ability to just put together a basic outfit. And the reality is that there are so many rules. Like, even if you're an expert, you won't know all of them. And you can end up unintentionally violating them. So, and ultimately, it's the sort of thing where the rules and their strictness have caused people to wear kimono less than they otherwise might have, and I see that as a big problem. Yeah. So anyway, this order has gotten to the stage where I'm comfortable folding it up. I used to do a bit of a naughty thing where I would post these things off as letters, which I still feel comfortable doing domestically, because I think domestically they don't mind it as much, but internationally they do. Internationally, that's been made clear by Australia Post that they do mind that, so I've stopped doing that and I've started to send them as parcels. And I'm happy to use Australia Post because they have gone carbon neutral, so I consider them to be up to my ethical standards. Yeah. So this is the item all folded up into a nice little rectangle. And what I like to do onwards of here is to gather something out of my room that can serve as packaging. And what I do is I collect old plastic bags that I can use for this purpose. Ooh, okay. One of the alarming things is that I left my room in such a state of disrepair for so long that sometimes I find evidence of, I want to say, life forms that should not be here. And it kind of scares me because, of course, this is also the room that I sleep in. So, but I haven't seen very much that seemed all that dangerous to me. So I'm trying not to worry about that too much and just focus on the good stuff. Okay, so this is an old shopping bag, and I'm going to just cut it so that it forms a flat shape, because right now it's in the shape of a bag, but I want to make it into the shape of a sheet so that I can wrap the order in it like wrapping paper, and then put a label on it, a postage label. So I've got to find my scissors, and I don't know where. I am wondering to what extent I should make this channel into like a professional vlog, or if it would be better off to try to maintain an air of mystery, shall we say? Because I feel like part of the fun of ordering your things from an independent creator is they're going to have this process that you know nothing about, and you can't just go and see it the way you would if it was a shop. But then I think, when I was a kid growing up, I'd go to Chinatown or um, Dumplings Plus over in Chatty, and I'd see the people in the window making their dumplings, and I actually really liked seeing that because, it was sort of fun to get this little window into that secret world of how they made their dumplings. And I mean, now that I think about it, it's probably a less positivistic thing of people wanting to be sure that their food is not being tampered with, and the best way to reassure people is by letting them see your process. But yeah, I'd rather be an optimist and think about, you know, I suppose giving a better quality experience to the customer in the end. Okay. Now, the thought that's coming to mind is how we lost Red Cycle in Australia, basically. Because back when I learned of Red Cycle, I had just been hearing about the dangers of microplastics. And so what I'm thinking about right now as I'm doing this packaging process is about how it is a way to use up the type of plastic bag that would have once gotten sent to Red Cycle, that I would have once been sending to Red Cycle, but now I can't because of the horrible, tragic way that they ended. Sorry, my throat's still a little bit sore. I had a flu a couple of weeks back. But yeah, the loss of Red Cycle is just a huge tragedy for me because as I've said, I was really concerned about microplastics. I still am, really. And I saw Red Cycle as one way of combating that problem. And then they just up and died. And I was so sad. I was crying over it. Literally, I was mourning the loss of Red Cycle for like maybe 2 or 3 months even. And I even now I feel like the loss of that soda, it's been anxious making for me, if anything. And so yeah, I am enthused about trying to use up my plastic bags, whatever plastic bags I get, in this way. And granted, these days most of the plastic bags you're going to get in the shops are reusables anyway, But there's only so many times you can reuse a reusable before it can no longer be reused. That's reality, unfortunately. And yeah, there is only so much you can do with a bag once that is the case. Um, One of the things I used to try to do was to actually use old plastic bags inside the reusable period pads and period panties that I would make. The trouble is, of course, as you can hear, the bags make a rustling sound, and I felt, and at that time, my thought was the environment is more important than dignity, so we should just accept the rustling noises. Actually, you know what? I'm just noticing there is an opportunity here for me to market myself a little bit to this person. So I'm thinking, oh, do I want to take a business card and put it in there? Or do I want to even put a little bit of origami in there? You know what? No, because it's a small basic order, I'm just going to package it up and send it off. But yeah, I am going to try to put the label on in a way that the bag can look a bit more attractive, because right now it's looking kind of visually unappealing. But yeah, okay, that's one order done, and I can work on the next. And it also is at the stage where it just needs ironing. It's another men's kakuobi, but this one's a stiffer variety that I make. This one's actually a little bit of a funny story, because what happened with this one, I mean, both of them were made from the same piece of reclaimed material, which came from an old doona cover, where the material is still in really, really good condition. In fact, it's one of the thickest, strongest materials I think I've ever used for this purpose. And yet, when I started to try to cut that doona cover up, what I found is that there was a lot of colored ribbon stitched to one side of it. And at first glance, I was like, oh, cool, I could use this decorated material to create maybe some obi with that pattern on it. But and stringy, and I just thought, well, I'd be embarrassed to show this to a customer. What am I going to do with this material? But then I was like, well, this order that the guy has made with me, it actually needs to be double layered. Like, it needs 2 layers of material inside of it at least, to try to stiffen it up a bit, because this is the more typical style of men's obi, really. So I thought, well, I'll just cut it up and sew it onto the inside and see how that goes. And lo and behold, it has turned out very nicely. It's got a good amount of stiffness to it. I mean, as you run your hand over it, you can feel some irregularities, of course, because the ribbons are only in specific spots within the item, but I don't see that as a massive problem. Yeah, I think that the feel of it is not unpleasant, and I think when I iron it up, it's going to create an interesting texture to the item. Like, it's going to create an interesting sort of look from the outside. So I'm actually optimistic. I'm actually pretty optimistic about this one. One of the things I am clear about with my customers is that I can't guarantee the texture every time, because I am doing the thing of reclaiming materials and making them into things. Oh, that was one of the things the council was talking to me about, how they didn't want me predominantly making things here and selling them. They wanted me to be importing things to resell them, which I'm fine with, because I do want to import more vintage kimono and be selling those. But the reality is that I do still want to do the upcycling that I do as well. Like, I don't want to stop doing that. So I've actually messaged them. I've actually sent them an email asking them, okay, what permit do I need? and or do I need a permit basically? And I'm just going to roll with whatever they say to me. And I mean, I can't imagine a permit being too expensive because otherwise, how would anybody keep up with it as a business expense? They wouldn't be able to, is the reality, especially in this economy. So, and the person I spoke to on the phone didn't sound like he was a no good chiseler or something. He sounded like a decent guy. So I think that the local council is going to be alright with me. Yeah. So basically, I'm going to keep ironing this Obi. Now, one of the thoughts I'm having, I feel like I was talking about something though. Like I changed subjects because I was thinking about the council, but oh well, if it's important, it'll come back to me. But yeah, I mean, the reality is that these men's Obi are my bread and butter item. So I don't really want to give up on them. I'm actually really proud of them and happy with them because they mean, like, the fact that I sold as many of them as I have does suggest that men are actually wearing kimono in the world much more than I thought they were. Because I was not necessarily expecting them to become such a good seller for my store. I was thinking I might sell a few here and there, but my main shtick was going to be vintage kimono, and it's sort of gone the other way, where, I mean, look, the reality is that importing vintage kimono for resale is a bit of a tricky thing, because, like, there's a lot of different sources where you can get vintage kimono these days, but the trick is getting them at a quality and a price that is like the quality has to be high enough that you can resell it, and it has to be of a style that people will want to buy. And at the same time, you don't want the price that you buy it at to be too high, because then when you go to resell it, you're going to have a tough time, basically. Because yeah, you need your pricing to be competitive, basically. And yeah, again, you have to cover all of your seller's fees and all of your taxes and all of the things that you also owe to your local government. And yeah, it ends up being a lot. So basically, the lower you can get those kimono for initially, the better your chance for survival. And there's a number of different ways I tend to get kimono. I'm in two minds about whether or not I want to reveal that, because I'm like, do I want to potentially be creating more competitors? And I don't really need that right now. I really don't. But then again, I've thought, should I think of other people who do similar things to me as competitors, given that I'm not doing exactly what they do? Like, there's other people who sew things, but are they sewing what I'm sewing? Not really. There's other people who sell used clothing, but are they selling exactly what I'm selling? Not really. I don't. In fact, I don't see anybody who's in the secondhand up attracting is going to be different. So why should, you know what I mean? I rather than thinking of them as competitors, I'd rather think of them as colleagues. If I'm honest, I don't know if they're gonna see it that way, but I'd prefer that personally. Because really, I like to think that everybody who is selling kimono, however they're doing it, they're part of the bigger system of trying to encourage people to wear kimono more frequently. Now, as I say that, I'm aware of the irony that in this video I'm not really wearing kimono. I mean, the thing that I'm wearing on my head is actually a repurposed wrapping cloth. Like, it's a traditional Japanese wrapping cloth. You can sort of see the design on it and see that it's made from a faux chiraman crepe, but I'm wearing it as a bandana. So yeah, make of that what you will. But yeah, being completely honest, mental health wise, I haven't been in a way where I feel like wearing kimono right now, because I tend to think of kimono as this thing with which you celebrate life. You celebrate living. And right now, I don't feel like I have a lot to celebrate, if I'm totally honest. Like, I'm working hard and I've been accomplishing a lot within the past 2 weeks, but at the same time, I'm not where I want to be. I'm, you know what I mean? I've got goals and I haven't achieved one yet. And yeah, well, okay, technically I have achieved one, but it's a fairly meager and slight goal. And I mean, I like being honest. When I reopened my Etsy, I was expecting it to take maybe 2 months before I would see another sale. And I was even thinking about not reopening for a lot longer, like really delaying until I had 100% of what's going on behind me all figured out. But then I know my nature, and I know that if I don't, like, even if I have plenty to back me up in terms of staying alive, I'm not going to really be able to relax and think clearly unless I know that I have cash flow. So I knew that I had to reopen early. And just for the sake of my own mental health, really. And Bobby Schuller, he's this pastor in Irvine, California, where he also has a background in business. And one of the things he talks about is how he has this philosophy of, what did he call it? Ready, fire, aim. And what he means by that is that, and I feel like that's a great philosophy to apply to all sorts of things in life. Because I think when you are learning how to do something, it is very easy to fall into that trap of just learning, learning, and learning, and never really putting what you learn into practice. But his way of learning how to do things, where you just do it and then see what worked and see what didn't, and then try to learn from that experience. To me, it seems like it's a lot better, because then it's not theory, it's practice, and whatever you're learning, it is the realities of the thing you're doing. And I feel like that's a lesson that can apply to all sorts of things in life. And yeah, so I mean, that's sort of what I'm instituting here, where I'm going to keep trying different things, and until I figure out a system that really seems to work. And yeah, I I don't see that there is that much of a risk for me, because I'm not planning on investing too much initially. I mean, okay, the reality is that I have been looking at potentially opening a physical location for my store. I've looked at a couple of different locations that are within the price range I would want to start with. And being honest, I'm not hugely happy about where they're located. Like, I can see good things and bad things about where they are, and it makes me a little nervous. It makes me a little nervous to take that risk. So I have thought about just delaying the concept until I have better certainty. Yeah, what you can see me doing right now is I'm actually taking apart some packaging from a parcel I received some of my actual materials in for my work, and I'm going to actually repurpose parts of it to send off this package that I'm about to put together, this second Kirby package. And I'm going to try to pack it flat, because I think that I'll be able to get lower postage if I get it really, really nice and flat. Like, admittedly, I don't know if this is really going to work, because if it's too heavy, you know what I mean? It's not, yeah, it's not going to help me. But yeah. Anyway, I might fold the whole thing in half. Yeah, so this one I'm holding is actually a 3 meter length one, and that's like, I believe that too many men will be thin enough to justify a thinner one. And my experience of shopping for Obi is that even when you can find an obi that's in a price range that you're comfortable with, it's not necessarily going to be big enough to fit you. In fact, it's pretty often the case that to get kimono items that will fit you, you have to go outside of your price range. And I think that's by design. I think a lot of modern people are too big for the older kimono stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, that's one of the gaps that my product fills. It's that you are able to get something that will fit you much more assuredly, because you can actually ask for the size you want. And granted, I don't charge the same amount for all sizes because, of course, with every meter that you add on, that adds time that I have to spend cutting, time that I have to spend sewing, time that I have to spend turning it inside out, more time ironing, more time folding, more weight in terms of postage. It's more everything, basically. But yeah, I like to think that I'm giving people options, especially if they are of a more full figured physique. And like, even though I might not look that big, the fact is that in terms of the trousers I typically end up wearing, I'm like a 14. So I know I know all about trying to find clothes that fit and not really being able to. And that's a frustration I hope to relieve a lot of my customers of. Now, right now it's not looking very appealing. It's just like an ugly, battered piece of cardboard with the obi sitting on it. So I'm thinking I'll cut up this bag that's actually left over from Moon Festival, and I'm going to pop that on top, and it's hopefully going to make the package look a lot more pretty. So I'm going to have to cut this up. I mean, arguably I could have just put the order into the bag and sealed the bag shut and sent that off, but I feel like it's more aesthetic if you try to make it a more geometric sort of a shape rather than just, a thing that's been. I want to show my customers that I care, basically, that I care enough to put some effort into what I make for them. Now I'm gonna get the little ropey thing out of the handle so that I can just get out of there. There we go. Yeah. That I was thinking of forming physical locations for the store. But yeah, it is a hefty investment, both initially in terms of buying all the resources I would need to do it, and also in terms of over the long run. It means that I will literally have an amount I absolutely must make every single week just to be able to keep the business going. And granted, for the place I was looking at, it wasn't that high. It was actually very cheap. Oh my gosh, this bag just left a whole lot of linty bits all over the obi. Okay, what I'm going to have to do is do a bit more. This is my magic weapon. My secret weapon. I use it all the time to try to gussy up my orders and make them look a bit more presentable. Because basically, I don't want to send off a big ball of linty stuff to a customer. I'd like to send them something that looks really, really appealing. So I'm just going to do a bit more lint rolling over here, and that looks a lot better. I'm going to lint roll my own skirt a bit because it's got some stuff on it, and I'm thinking if there's stuff on me, I'm more likely to leave stuff all over something else, which isn't nice. Now, I used to do the thing of always handwriting a letter and including that in the order, but I've stopped doing that. I suppose because right now I'm feeling time poor, but I'm thinking that once my business is a bit more nailed down, I will probably go back to doing that, like including little bits of origami and nice things in the order. Yeah, but yeah, I was going to say the area that I was looking at for opening the store in is an area called Baronia. Now, Baronia, like the retail rent there is so cheap compared to other areas, but there is a good reason for it, and that reason is that it is a difficult area. It's a zombie-ish almost sort of area. And I mean, I like to look at situations like that and see it as an opportunity for growth and, to see it as an opportunity for making the place, better. And like right across the hallway from the place where I would be running shop is a really like high quality boutique style cafe that has wonderful reviews on Google. So I'm thinking that it would be good to think of it as a development area rather than just a place of sadness. Oh, I'm a little annoyed. I didn't do this as efficiently as I could have, but you live and learn. You live and learn. Now, it's just occurring to me that I'm unintentionally putting the marketing of another company into the packaging, but then I think, you know what? If I didn't do this, this would just get thrown in the trash. So why should I feel bad about it? You know? It's a weird thing to feel bad about. I won't do it. I'm going to just tape that together. And I mean, one of the things I've thought about is trying to maybe look for opportunities to standardize my packaging, even though I am recycling the material. So maybe I could restrict the nature of what I recycle, and I could then print out maybe some sort of a logo or something and stick that onto the package. Because as it is, I have to print out the package label to stick on there. Although in this case, because it's an order within the country, I might not need to do that. But yeah, in any case, yeah, I have felt nervous about going for that lease, partly because I feel like it's a high risk area, and partly because yeah, when I initially spoke to the real estate agent, he was talking very positivistically about the property being modified to suit me, to suit my needs. But then when I actually received a copy of the agreement that I would be signing if I did want to go ahead with the lease, it included a clause saying that I could not ask the landlord to do any repairs or any modifications or any cleaning there, which, yeah, it troubles me deeply because I thought one of the basic things that a landlord is meant to do is to repair and maintain the property they lease out. I did not think that they were allowed to say, no, we won't help you. I mean, even setting that aside, I don't plan on trashing the place. Like, I plan on looking after it, so that's not so much of a problem. The real problem is that when I went to inspect it, it was not in pristine condition by any means. It was actually looking kind of dilapidated, and even that I can work with, but if I'm having to do all of the cleaning and maneuvering single-handedly, that's too much for me right now. Like, as it is, I'm not entirely used to being back in business, if I'm honest. I'm still nailing all of that down, if that makes any sense. And yeah, it's like even if I want to sign, I feel like it's a bit fishy that the real estate agent was telling me one thing and then the agreement is telling me another. Like maybe that's a case of me being too suspicious and too suspect. But yeah, look, in any case, it does sort of make sense that I would just try to run the business from home and see how far I can get before I start trying to do a physical location again. Because yeah, even if I want to just give having a physical location a try, like a dry run, I could just try opening market stalls in some places like I used to. Now, I hated doing that really because I don't know how to drive, so I do everything via public transport. And so every time I would be running a market stall, it would mean lugging all of my stuff through the trains or even through the buses, or having to just hold market stalls in places my dad could drive to. And yeah, as it is, my dad is getting super old and he can't keep driving me everywhere. So, I mean, one of the options I'm looking at is potentially learning how to drive and even like buying a people mover so that I can actually have the people mover as my store, as my physical location. And I mean, admittedly, if I was going to do that, I would probably again need special permissions to do that. But it's not impossible. It's not impossible. But yeah, in any case, there's a lot of options for improvement here. Yeah, but I feel like it's a time for authenticity. You know, it's a time for being honest about what's ahead and trying to do better with that. What I'm seeing is that in all the time I've had this running, though, there has been no visitors. So this concept, I don't know. I mean, what I might do is that idea of just letting the camera point at the orders as I work on them and publishing that and just allowing, like, telling the customers that they can come and watch footage of their things being made. I feel like that's actually not a bad idea. This package I've just put together, I don't know. It's rustic. We can call it rustic. We can say that. But it does look sort of pretty because I used the materials I did. I don't know about these holes up here. I might want to tape those over. Just just in case of rain. You know, just in case of rain. I don't I don't like it when I send something off to a customer and then I get this message from them saying, "Oh, the post office left it in the rain and now it's waterlogged." And oh, poor customer. I don't like that happened to you. I'm gonna try to take better care of you. And yeah, so at least the holes are taped over. The bag, it feels like it's cardboard with some sort of a layer on it. I don't know how water resistant it is, but it feels like it's at least a little bit. So I'm feeling okay about this. I'm feeling okay. And yeah, so I'll print out the postage labels I need. Now, I actually ran a little experiment today to see what would be the cheapest service for me. And for a while, I was really into Sendle because it seemed to be the most affordable service. And I wanted to be supportive of a company that could compete with Australia Post. But what I've found is that at least internationally, Sendle is not the cheapest option right now. And like, that's just being honest. I mean, I could go for them anyway and try to support the little guy. I'm in two minds. I'm in two minds because I don't want to have to raise my costs to my customers. And financially, I'm still working things out for myself. So yeah, maybe over the long run, it's something that I can mull over and work out. It can be thought about. But anyway, look, if you do come and watch, thank you for watching. It's appreciated. I mean, really, this video isn't like marketing the way marketing is supposed to be. It's really just me being open and honest about what's going on here. And I want to think some people will like that, but we'll see how we go. Anyway, you have a good day or night or whatever you're having. And yeah, take good care of yourself because what else are you going to do?